Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are first time watching my YouTube here, do a lot of side-by-side stuff, but I've more got into dirt bikes here in the last couple videos. Just getting back into it. I have a couple boys of mine that wanted to get in the riding, so picked up some bikes for me to start riding with them again and teaching them, and it's going to be something that we'll do on the channel quite a bit. I grew up around two strokes. I've owned one four-stroke. I had a CR250. That was the only four-stroke I ever owned. I've rode mostly woods my entire life, enduro, stuff like that. I would consider myself an average rider. Right now I consider myself a novice. Haven't been on a bike in probably 3-4 years. My last bike was a KTM 300. First bike was a KD80 back in, God, I was probably 13 years old, 14 years old after I detasseled. So I've owned a lot of bikes, ran my own mechanic shop, been around in the motors quite a bit. So I know what I'm talking about enough to get me in trouble and to help you guys out here and there. So what we have here, I want to show you guys how to set RC valves the correct way. A couple videos on YouTube. There's the manual. The manual is absolutely garbage how to set these RC valves. There is a reference point, there are measurements, and there's a set place to put these power valves. Now, you guys want to do this probably with brand new cables. Is it necessary? No, just because these cables aren't under huge tension to where they stretch or anything, but it'd be a good idea. A set of cables is about $20 to $30, so nothing big out of your pocket. So in 2002 to 2007, when they quit making the CR250, is when they had RC valves. It's a mechanical power valve or electronic power valve ran off a solenoid with two cables. They also had it in the CR125, which this isn't, a 2002. 2002 is the only year they had the power valves in a 125. This is the 2000. So the difference between the power valve in this and the power valve in this is ran off a gear. It's ran off of gear next to the flywheel that has a Bendix on it. That Bendix moves compared to the RPM of the motor, opening and closing a rod that opens and closes the power valves. This is ran off two cables in a solenoid that open up at certain RPMs, open and close the power valves. Now, to be able to set these, you have to know how this works. When the power valve is completely closed, this piston is moving in the cylinder, and at low RPMs, the piston stays in the stroke longer under compression, which gives you that low end grunt, low end power out of a corner in the woods, stuff like that. Now, as the RPMs raise, this power valve starts to open and the cylinder or the piston doesn't stay in the stroke as long under compression. Now you're probably thinking, well, that don't make sense. Wouldn't I want compression longer at higher RPMs to give me more power? Well, in a two-stroke, that's not how it works. There's a whole bunch that I could go into, but the video would be too long. So I just kind of want to show you why you don't want that in a two-stroke. The reason is because of this. When people talk about riding in the pipe or being on the pipe is the best feeling on a two-stroke, that's because you are actually getting power from this pipe. Now, it doesn't have to do with the shape of the pipe, guys. It doesn't matter what shape it is, because the only reason it's shaped like this is just to fit the bike. It has to do with the diameter of the pipe, down here, up here, and at the end, and it has to do with the length of the pipe. That's why, like on a CR500, this pipe is just massive, and it's really wide and bent and big. It's because it needed longer length compared to the CCs of a 125. If I would go over in here and show you guys the pipe that's on this 250, it is a little bit bigger. What happens is the sound waves come through this pipe, and at higher RPMs it can't get out quick enough, and it starts to bounce inside the end of the pipe, and it forces that sound wave back through the pipe, and it grabs the extra fuel and the extra air that hasn't been used in the motor, forces it back into the motor, and gives you a supercharged feeling. That is what people say when they say riding the pipe is the best feeling, is because that's when the peak performance of a two-stroke is hitting. You're actually getting that extra fuel and air into the combustion chamber because your power valves are open, forcing that air and fuel back into the cylinder. Now, advantages and disadvantages. RC valve, there's not very many pros to an RC valve. They're mostly cons. Why? It's ran off electronics, it's ran off a solenoid, it's ran off cables that can get dirty, corroded, gummy, you know, and give you problems. But the nice thing is about an RC valve, the only pro, is it's adjustable. The where on this machine, you're running off a gear. The gear is very reliable, usually doesn't go bad, but you can't set this power valve. Where it's set from the factory is where it's set. Now, I don't know if you can get, if there's guys out there, companies out there that'll make different Bendexes, different springs to make the power valves hit different times, but this is a way to be able to tell your motor when you want to open and close your power valves. A lot like a KTM or a Beta or a gas bikes that are made more for the woods from Europe. You can take out the springs in KTMs and all the European bikes and put in different colored springs, letting that power valve open and close where you want it to. That's why I like RC valves. That's why I think they're a better design. A lot of people disagree with me, but that's just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. Now, to set these power valves, it's very easy, guys. All you do is open it up. Right now, well, not open. Right now, the power valve is closed. This is the closed position of the power valve. What you want to do is from the very top of this butterfly valve to the very bottom of these threads, you want to have a distance of 12 millimeters. That is just a baseline, okay? For you more advanced riders that like to ride woods, I like to run mine at 11 millimeters. You can even go to 10 millimeters. After you kind of get out of those specs, you start having bogging problems. So from 12 to 10, that's where you want it. For you guys that are just getting in the 2 strokes, you're not a very advanced rider, set it at 12, leave it at 12. That's where you're gonna get your max performance. And then turn this, tighten this cable to where it's taut. Now, you want it to move a little bit. You want it to have some free play. You don't want it tighter than hell, but you don't want it to the point to where you can push it to the case. If it's touching the case, tighten it up a little bit more. If you guys are having bogging issues, let's say when you hammer the gas, you get a nice power valve, and when you let off the gas and punch it again, it bogs. It's flat on its face. It may either be 2 things. You got a problem in your carburetor, or you have a problem with your power valves. Now, to check if this power valve is running correctly, start your bike up, and this should move. At 8,000 RPMs, it should max out. 8,000 RPMs, it'll be completely open. As soon as you let off the throttle, this should snap back. There shouldn't be any chattering in there. If it's chattering or jumping around, a lot of the times, guys, your teeth or something's going wrong in your shit, can't think of the word, your solenoid. Okay, now, if it's coming up, but it's not snapping back, you want to check your cable. Your cable might be gummed up, might be dirty. So if it's not, as soon as you let off the throttle, snapping back, usually it's this cable. This cable's gummed up. It usually has nothing to do with your solenoid, but again, that might be something that you want to check, okay? It's that simple, guys. For you guys more advanced, mess around with your power valves. Enjoy messing around with your power valves. I love doing it on my KTM. You can make it so mellow, or you can make it just a monster. You can do not quite the same that you can do on a KTM or European bikes, but you can kind of play around with this. Like I said, I like mine at 11. Gives me kind of that mid-range power in the top end, and the low end gives me a little bit more low end grunt. But guys, play around with it, experiment with it. It's not going to hurt anything. You can actually unhook these power valves and run this 2-stroke for quite a long time without the power valves even hooked up. When I was younger, I had, God, I can't remember, a KDX 220, and I redid the top end. I was young, redid the top end, forgot to hook the power valve up. I ran that bike for probably 30 hours without that power valve hooked up. So it was closed at all times. Didn't even really notice it. Ended up noticing, took it into a shop. The shop guy that was a very advanced rider rode it, and he goes, something's wrong with this bike. He opened it up, power valves were disconnected. So you live and you learn. But so for you guys that are more advanced, play around with this, enjoy it. Do not play around with this and test it on a motocross track. Last thing you want to do is when you go to clear, you know, a double or a single or something, is for this thing to bog out. So play with your power valves either in the backyard, on the woods, on a flat track, somewhere to where if it does bog out, you're not going to get in any trouble. But if you guys have any questions, please email me. I will try to help you as much as possible. There's a lot to go into this. If you're noticing, you know, for you younger riders that are just starting out, if you're noticing a bunch of power loss, check your pipe. Your pipe might be just dinged to hell. And if your pipe is dinged, that sound can't get back into the motor and it won't have its max power. So if you ever go out and wreck it hard and have a big old ding in it, that sound wave can't get back into the motor, so you are going to lose power. These carburetors on these bikes are very, very finicky. So for you beginner riders, get with somebody that really knows their carburetors. Get on, I'm not going to do a video on it. It's too in depth, but there is a video to learn how to read your spark plug. You can actually saw your spark plug apart and measure the burn marks in the spark plug so you can find your jetting to be perfect. Another thing to do is go on the internet and order jets for this, JP, JD jetting or something like that. They'll actually ask for your elevation, what temperature you usually run, and give you jets specifically for that. They've done all the tuning. So, and again, guys, when you get those kits, it's just baseline. But anyway, I've talked enough here. It's getting on a 12-minute video. So I'm sorry I talked so much. If you guys, again, if you need help, let me know. I want to go out riding today, but it's 98 freaking degrees and 60% humidity. It's nasty, and it's been like that for 3 weeks. So I'm just going to get a bigger tank on this so I can get it up in the woods when it gets nicer and be able to not come back all the time with fuel. But so have a good weekend, guys. Make sure you subscribe. See ya.